I'm super excited that we're back speaking with Laura Try. Laura is a familiar friend and guest on the Tough Girl podcast. Back in 2017, Laura came on and was part of 7 Women, 7 Challenges, where she shared more about her journey of rowing around Great Britain, rowing over 1,800 miles, but also about her big goal, her big dream, which was to row across the Atlantic Ocean. But let's hear more from Laura. Hi, Laura. How are you doing?
Hey, Sarah. So cool to be speaking to you again.
Yeah, I am so excited. I'm absolutely buzzing, and I can't wait to talk about your Atlantic row and what you've achieved and what you've learned from that experience. But I suppose for people who maybe haven't listened to 7 Women, 7 Challenges, and I'll obviously put links to that so people can go back and listen to it, just tell people a little bit more about you. How would you introduce yourself?
Oh, wow. I totally should have rehearsed that, eh? So I suppose in short, I was a shopaholic beauty salon owner turned minimalist in training endurance athlete. A few years back, I used to own my own beauty salon, just, trying to buy my way to happiness. And then when I got to 30, I just thought, I've just got this life full of stuff and I still am not feeling anywhere near as fulfilled as I want to feel when I'm 30. So I thought, right, let's try and experiment. I started getting rid of everything and filling my life with more experiences, bought a pair of trainers, started running. And then from going from not a runner, so I just used to run to the end of the road and back. And now 6 years on, I've now rowed around Britain. I've done ultra marathons, rowed across the Atlantic. I can't really believe that I've done all that stuff, and I used to be that old person. And even when you intro me and say what I've done, I think to myself, wow, I did that.
It's absolutely amazing, I'd say, the change in your life just from 6 years, about where you've come from and what you've achieved, because it is almost a complete 360. But let's talk a little bit about the Atlantic row. Why was this a goal? When did this idea first get planted in your mind?
Well, it was almost to the day, actually. I think it was, it was definitely April 2015. It was London Marathon Day, and I was sitting at my friend's house. I just remember it so clearly, laying on the floor on my stomach, just scoffing loads of chocolate. Just remember it being a real slobby day, watching all these people run the London Marathon and thinking, maybe I should be doing something awesome. And then I get this phone call from a friend who I wouldn't really classify as a kind of phone friend. It was just someone that I used to see at adventures and hang out with when I did running, but he never called me. So I thought, this is weird. Answered the phone. And within the first 3 sentences, he said, do you want to row across the Atlantic with us? Okay. So I was thinking to myself, well, I don't actually know where the Atlantic is, which is so embarrassing. And also I didn't know that people did crazy stuff like that. Like you can actually row across an ocean. And then I thought to myself, so this sounds super cool. Sounds really hard. I asked him if anyone had died, and he said to his knowledge, no. I said, all right, then I'll get back to you in a week. And then within 30 minutes, I called him back and said, I'm in, I'll do it. I hadn't done anything like it before. My longest event had been 48 hours. And I just thought, this is an opportunity not to be missed. Sadly, the team that I joined, it didn't work out. So within about 9 months, a few team members realised that there was so much more than just rowing across the Atlantic. There was the fundraising and the training, and they just couldn't fit it in amongst their busy family lives and also their career. So the team fell apart, and I'd already been training for all of that time and putting together some sponsorship. And I just thought to myself, I kind of can't let this go. It just sat in the back of my mind. And I thought, I need to do this. I need to know what it feels like. A few months after the team fell apart, I saw on Facebook that there was an opportunity to row around Great Britain. And I thought, well, kind of got it into my head that I want to do some ocean rowing, so I might as well sign up. I signed up, paid a small deposit. A year later, I did it. And then when I got back, it just cemented the fact that I totally loved doing something like that. And I I then just thought I want to do the Atlantic even more. I put a video out on social media and said, hey, I want to row across the Atlantic, like, let me join your team or something like that. And then a few months later, a group asked me to join their team. And then 8 months after that, I was in a boat, three near enough strangers, rowing from Spain over to Antigua. Like, the whole thing is just a bit of a whirlwind.
Such a whirlwind, and there's so many different things that I want to go talk to you about that in more detail, definitely. But actually, I want to go back to that initial phone call that I'll call you back later, and then 30 minutes later you call them back saying yes. Now, normally I imagine, I'm really interested to hear what happened in your mind, because normally when people say something, I want to go and walk the Camino, I want to run the London Marathon, I want to row an ocean, I want to do this big challenge. The first thoughts that go through people's heads are every single reason why they can't do it. And then before they've even glimpsed that dream, they think, no, I can't do it. And they stop and they don't take it any further. But for you, that wasn't the case. So what went through, I mean, I know it's very difficult to go back to that time, but what was going through your head in those 30 minutes? Why did that Atlantic seed that idea take hold of your mind?
Well, I can remember it really clearly. It was just such a huge pivotal point in my entire life. That particular day just changed my future. I'd already made the decision at that point that a career as a beauty salon owner probably wasn't for me, and that I just wanted to just be a little less reliant on the way that I looked, and looking a certain way, acting a certain way, and helping people do the same. I had already decided that I just wanted a life with just a bit more oomph. And so when they offered me that opportunity, I just felt as though it was the universe kind of giving me the key to unlock that door. And also the guys that had asked me, two guys, Ben and Carl, they were kind of legends in themselves in the adventure. And they basically put together a list separately of all the people that they wanted to join the team. And I was one of three people that was on both of their lists. And they told me that. And I thought, well, if two people like this think that I'm capable of doing something like that and also want me on their team, then how can I ignore that? Also, if I said no, like, I would always be wondering. It just tied in so perfectly with the way that my life was changing and just shaping into slightly more kind of adventurous and minimal way of living. It just made sense to say yes.
I mean, it's interesting, after that, you started training, you started doing sponsorship, but the team, unfortunately, did fall apart. And then again, there's this other opportunity to say, do you know what, maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe I need to give up on my dream. But you persevered so much through setbacks. How did you keep persevering? How did you keep going after this dream?
Yeah, I'm just super stubborn. Haven't really got very much else to say. It's just when I set my mind to something, I just get on with it. Maybe it's something to do with being an only child. I've been like it since I was a kid. I'll think about something and then I just do it. It's within me, and I kind of get worse as I get older. I think, right, I want to do this, and then I just, I do it. But actually, it can be a bad thing because, as part of 7 Women, 7 Challenges, like, I really put my physical and mental health at risk in order to try and achieve this dream. So it probably sounds magnificent on the outside, like, wow, she worked really hard and she achieved what she wanted to do. But actually, I really sacrificed a lot, and my friends and family were really worried about me. So this stubborn determination isn't always a good thing.
And I think it's interesting, actually. That's one of the reasons that we did 7 Women, 7 Challenges, was to show people, look, it's not all sunshine and roses. Because when people have these big goals and they go out and achieve them, and yes, it's amazing, and we can talk about what they've done to get there. But actually, people sometimes don't realize the blood, the sweat, the tears that goes into it. I mean, I think, I've said this to you before, and I think I even, I've said it on the podcast as well. Towards the end of the fundraising for your row around Great Britain, where you needed to raise like £25,000, and it was really touch and go. Like, I have to say, I was very worried, and a lot of people were actually worried about you in case this didn't happen. And you did raise the funds, you persevered through that, but it was a hugely challenging experience. Having gone through that with the row around Great Britain, was there anything that you were worried about with regards to the Atlantic row, whether it was the fundraising or the training or, finding the crew? Because it's $100,000 to row across the Atlantic Ocean in a team of 4 people. It's big amounts of sponsorship that you need to raise. How did it change? I'm surprised that actually your experiences on the row around Great Britain didn't put you off.
Yeah, I wasn't put off from rowing across the Atlantic by going around Great Britain. The experiences that I had were so magical that I just thought I want to do it all again, and it was almost worth all the pain and the effort. The fundraising for across the Atlantic again was absolute killer. Fortunately, I already had a little bit of experience. I had some contacts, a bit of networking. So I just kind of felt a little bit more confident. I was also part of a team of 4, so it wasn't quite as brutal. Like, I didn't need to do it all myself. We delegated all of the jobs. But again, the fundraising for things like this is just brutal, absolutely brutal, like possibly harder than the actual challenge itself.
So talking about your Atlantic row, you put this video out on social media saying, this is your dream, this is what you want to do. And then out of the blue, you do get contacted by this group to ask to join the team. Now, I think this is where it gets really interesting because, do you want to explain a bit more about that story, about what that was like, how they got in contact with you, what happened at that moment?
Yeah, well, this is where it all starts getting a bit juicy. Because after I'd rowed around Great Britain, the company that built the ocean rowing boats, Rannoch Adventure, they invited me to work for them. And so, of course, I said yes. It was just a great opportunity, and also just being part of the ocean rowing community. And they invited me out to the start of the Atlantic race in 2017 to do some work. Well, the experience was just amazing, to be this adventure of a lifetime. And when I got back, I just thought enough is enough. Like, I want to row across the Atlantic so bad. It actually gave me a pain in my stomach that I need to find a way. So that's when I made the video. So I put the video out and started the process. And then after a few months, it did dwindle off a little bit, and then went out for a few drinks with a friend one night, got back a bit tipsy, checked my emails, and basically had an email from a team introducing themselves, basically saying we're a team of 3 women and we're looking for an extra person. And they didn't really say anything else. And I was thinking, well, is that an invite or is it just information? So then I was drunk and I just messaged back and just said, like, is that an invite? Are you asking me to come on the team? And then they just said yes. And then a few weeks later, we met up for some food and some drinks. We agreed that I was going to be part of the team. And then 8 months later, in a boat.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, stuff happens in mysterious ways, and it's amazing how things like this can come together. So, a couple of questions. So one, they were already a team of 3, which had formed, and then you sort of went in to join the team. You had 8 months left. How was that coming in as maybe a bit of an outsider, but also an experienced outsider, because you've already got this experience of rowing around Great Britain? Was the team that you were joining, had they got experienced rowers with them? Were they all novices? Talk to me a little bit more about the team. And what was your team called? Sorry.
So the team was called Row for the Ocean.
Row for the Ocean, okay.
Yeah. And so the three girls that were part of the team already were experienced river rowers, like frighteningly strong river rowers. So first of all, I wasn't scared or nervous at all about joining an existing team, because in the past I've done quite a lot of adventures where I just basically show up, get put in a team, and it just happens. My experience is if everyone wants to get to the end, then everyone gets on. And I felt confident in myself in terms of having ocean rowing experience and having the connection with the ocean rowing community. So I felt as though with their strong determination and rowing experience and my fundraising and ocean rowing experience, I just felt as though we were just gonna get on and just have an awesome time.
Talk me through those 8 months, though. Those 8 months, that planning, that preparation before you were going to head off to row the Atlantic Ocean. There must have been so much stuff on your to-do list. Like, where do you even start? How do you plan? How do you organize? How do you prepare? How do you balance everything? Sorry, that's multiple questions then.
Yeah, as soon as I joined the team, I put my fundraising hat back on, and then my brain started going crazy again. And I just thought, oh my goodness, like, why have I done this? But the girls had already raised quite a lot of money, and they seemed to have a lot of momentum. So I kind of picked that up. So we all had dedicated jobs within the team, which was great because it just eased a little bit of pressure. They all lived in Exeter, so I lived in the Midlands, and therefore I would go down every 3 or 4 weeks on the train. We would jump on the boat on a Friday night, head out for the whole weekend, and then come back in on Sunday night. I'd get the train back and be at my desk on Monday morning. So the whole experience was quite full on. There was absolutely zero rest, and we would all be messaging and communicating probably about 50 times a day. Like, it was full on. And having 4 people, like I say, eased a little bit of pressure, but it certainly was still tough.
You're working full time, you're training, you're doing fundraising. How did you balance it? But how did you fit everything in?
I don't know. I'd love to give you like a really constructive answer, but I don't know. Like, we just get on with it, don't we? We've got no choice. If we need to raise money, or we need to sit on a rowing machine for 2 hours, or we need to design a sponsorship pack, like, we just do it, just get on with it. But yeah, just so tiring.
What's a typical day like for you? What time are you getting up in the morning?
I get up at 5. I love getting up at 5. So I have a little bit of relaxation in the morning. I spend an hour just stretching, drinking my tea, writing my journal. And that was my relax time. And I didn't turn my phone on. And then I turned my phone on at 8 o'clock. And then it would just be full of messages. I would do an hour or 2 of Row for the Ocean stuff. Then I would turn off my notifications. I would go to work for 6 to 7 hours. Then turn my notifications on in the night and work on stuff for the campaign. And also I would train in the morning and in the afternoon as well. But actually the training is, that's no pressure, no problem. That's the bit that I love. I train twice a day anyway, so it doesn't take any extra time out. However, on a Sunday, our coach would tell us that we needed to row for 2 hours, and then my heart would just sink, and I'd need to sit on the rowing machine for 2 hours and post my training times in the shared WhatsApp group.
With being told on a Sunday you've got to row for 2 hours on a rowing machine, are you rowing in the gym? Do you have a rowing machine at home in front of your TV? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you listen to music? Are you listening to audiobooks? Are you just in your own mind? What are you doing during the training?
I used to have my own rowing machine from when I was training for around Great Britain, and I put it in a place that isn't particularly pleasing. So it's been in my garden shed before. The last time I had it, it was in my attic. I feel as though if I was to sit in front of my TV, I wouldn't actually be rowing. I would be watching TV and rowing, and so my attention wouldn't be fully on what the task in hand. And also I thought, well, I'm not going to have a TV when I row across the Atlantic, so there's no point in wishing this time to be over. So I would just put in my earphones, listen to my rowing soundtrack, and just crack on. Just face it. I would face the wall as well, so there was nothing really to look at, because I figured, well, when I'm out on the ocean, I'm just going to literally have the ocean to look at, and that might get boring. It didn't, but it could get boring. And so I'm a bit of a sucker for punishment. Like, I like to train in a challenging environment in order to know that I can do it. And sometimes I would turn off the light in the attic and also not listen to music, which just sounds quite dramatic, but, you know, ultimately that's what we were doing across the ocean, just rowing in the dark at night. And sometimes our earphones weren't charged, or we didn't have enough battery, so we had no choice. I needed to know that I could do stuff like that.
Yeah, do you know, I think that's an amazing thing to do. And it doesn't sound dramatic at all. It actually sounds really quite sensible, and actually really, because actually sometimes you are going to be rowing in the dark. Sometimes you are going to be rowing and not going to be able to see anything. Sometimes your headphones aren't going to be charged. Can you do it when even though you're in a nice, safe environment at home, but actually when it is boring, when it is dull, when there is nothing going on and it is just you and the rowing machine, because those are the tough times. Those are the tough times that you're going to face on the water.
Yeah.
Let's talk about rowing the Atlantic Ocean. Let's talk about getting over there, getting to the start line. I mean, what must have you been feeling like? Because this is a dream you've had since April 2015. You've had, setbacks after setbacks, but you've persevered. And now suddenly there you are in Spain, ready to row across the Atlantic Ocean. Take us back to that time.
Yeah, I'm sitting here smiling my head off. So you get out there 2 weeks before the race to prepare, make sure your boat's good, get inspections, go to safety briefings. And I've kind of picked up this stoic philosophy practice recently, whereby I try not to get overly excited. I try not to get overly scared or nervous. Like the extreme emotions, I try and stay quite stable, which for anyone that knows me totally isn't me. Like I get so excited about anything, but actually because I can get high and low, it can use up my emotional energy. So when I got out there, I'd take myself off and sit by the beach or something and just think like, sugar, I'm here. And then my stomach would start to knot and screw up. And then I would just think, relax, 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 because this is using all of your energy and you need your energy for the next 6 weeks. But it was it was like it wasn't me. It was like I was watching me. And even now, I think back and it doesn't feel like me. It just basically feels like I'm telling a story about someone that I watched from above or next to, or like a friend. So yeah, it was just so bizarre being there. And then the start of the race, that morning was, insane. I don't think I've ever felt that way in all my life. And I was desperately just trying to control those environments and keep a lid on it, or recycle them or process them somehow. Like they were there. But it's like there's no point in feeling sick. There's no point in feeling nervous. Just stay focused and calm. Oh, just remembering it that morning, I just physically could not eat any breakfast. And again, if people know me, that is not me. I eat anything and everything. But my dad, I think he was a little bit worried. Like I had one mouthful of watermelon and then just nearly threw up. So I was clearly in a really emotional state, but I was on the outside trying to stay calm.
When did it settle down for you? How long did you realise that you were in suddenly this new normality, or that you were living your dream and you were rowing across the Atlantic? Like when did it become real for you?
It took about 2 hours. So we rowed for 2 hours on the boat, and then we rest for 2 hours. And within the first 2 hour rowing shift, I thought, I'm here. Like I can relax. relax. I haven't got to fundraise. I haven't got to go on social media. I haven't got to train. Like, I haven't got to speak to anyone. And all of us felt the same as well. All of us just took a huge sigh of relief within about the first half an hour. And we just said, we're here, we're doing it. Like, this is it, this is us. And we all just relaxed and stayed like that for 6 weeks.
What was the biggest challenge of those 6 weeks?
So there's two. I'll start with the one that I find quite difficult to talk about. So the dynamics of our team, much to my surprise, didn't work how I thought it would have worked. And there were different personalities within the team that just didn't get on. Like, no one was wrong or no one was right. It was just the fact that some people were different from other people, and that really tested me a lot. Usually in that environment, I would flee and not put myself in that situation. But we was in a boat that was 8 meters long by 1.5 meters wide, and we were there for 6 weeks. Like, I couldn't flee. And so in those kind of situations, I think to myself, like, this isn't great and it's not making me feel very nice, but this is obviously something that I need to deal with and I need to develop and I need to grow. And as a result, since I've got back, like, I can see now why I was put in that situation, because I would never voluntarily put myself in that situation. But now I've come back, I can see how, as a human, that I have been able to develop myself. And without that, I never would have experienced it. Does that all make sense?
It does. And to be honest, I know a lot of people, listening to the podcast, everyone's going to be in these difficult situations, especially when it's different personalities and people don't necessarily get on. I think we've all been there, whether that's at work or at school or university. But normally you can escape, you can get away, you can walk away, and you don't have to engage. I mean, it's something that I don't do it anymore. Like, if I'm in a uncomfortable situation and I don't feel, people aren't getting on, I walk away, I leave it. I just don't want to waste my energy or waste my time on those situations. But obviously you can't do that on a boat. You are stuck there in, I don't even know how big the boat is. What techniques did you have to develop, and how did you handle it, especially when maybe you were getting like a little bit frustrated or upset or angry about maybe what was happening on this, what should have been this incredible experience?
So the first thing that's really important for me to say is that we had two really important goals on the boat. The first one was to be safe as a crew, and also the second one was to win the female race, become the first female team to cross the finish line in that race. And so quite a lot of the time it was unspoken, but within us all, if there was a frustration or an anxiety or an upset, we would always make sure that A, we was all safe, and B, we was all in that boat really for one reason, and that was to win the female race. And so for me, it was quite simple in terms of, look, we're not all perfect. We're not all going to get on. We're all really tired and we're all really hungry and we've got different personalities. But the reason that we're here is because we want to win the race. And so I could have been in a boat with 3 of my best mates, like just having the best time. But getting on the boat and having the best time wasn't my priority. It was to win the female race. So I actually then felt grateful to be with the people that I was with, despite the differences, because we were in the lead and eventually we did win the female race. And so that kind of taught me quite a lot as well about, you don't always need to get on with everybody amazingly. It's about having shared values, shared goals, and actually getting it done, like making it happen, and just getting on with it.
Yeah, 100% getting on with it. I think it's actually really important if you can come back to the goals which link you all together. And to be honest, I love those goals. One, be safe and, be the first female team. So actually everything's going to come back to this. Is this safe what we're doing? Is this going to help us to become the first female team to row across the Atlantic? And you said those two challenges. So you talked about the first one. What was the second biggest challenge for you?
Well remembered. There was a day where the wind, usually the wind across the Atlantic goes from east to west. So essentially you're getting a little helping hand. And there was a particular day where the wind blew in the opposite direction. So if we'd have stopped rowing, it actually would have pushed us back. So in those circumstances, 3 people row instead of 2. And we'd had news from our land support that the wind would only last about maybe 3 or 4 or 5 hours. So we were rowing 3 people, and 9 hours later, we were still rowing. 6 of those hours we were rowing with our left oar only to stop us travelling north. And with each hour that passed, we would look at each other and we'd say, we can't keep doing this. How long is this going to How long is this going to last? But there was always someone on the boat that said, no, come on, we've been going for this long. We've got to carry on. And then 9 hours later, in the blistering midday sun, in the middle of the ocean, the wind finally eased off. And we were all absolutely exhausted. I mean, we stopped for about 5 minutes here and there to have some food, to have a wee. But as soon as that job was done, we got straight back on, because to go from 3 people to 2, it just left the other 2 in quite a lot of pain because it was so slow. We were travelling at half a knot, which is half a mile an hour. And in 9 hours, we travelled 4 miles. We treated ourselves at the end to a half an hour break, and we just ate so many peanut M&Ms. Like, it was so funny. There was such a great feeling on the boat, because we felt, although we were really, really tired, we felt as though we'd accomplished it. And in the same weather, some other teams had drifted back and we'd actually carried on going forward. So, yeah, despite feeling tired, we felt really happy with ourselves. And it also provided us a massive bonding experience for the whole team, the fact that we all did that and we stayed in that pain cave for 9 hours.
Oh, my God.
Like 9 hours, imagine. It was like rowing through concrete. Like, put the rowing machine at the maximum drag and then times it by 2. Like, our oars were travelling about 30 centimetres. It was just crazy.
I'm just imagining as well, like 6 hours on the left oar only.
6 hours on left oar only. Crazy.
I think that's a testament to what the human body can achieve, and the body's absolutely amazing. But that's that's obviously a physical challenge, but that's mental more than anything else. Talk to me about the mental side of rowing and the mentality to keep on going and not stop, and to be, instead of just saying, blow this, or, that's 9 hours. Wow. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Talk about the mental side of rowing.
Well, we had 2. I've got my own phrase, and that's just get on with it. I use it quite a lot in just everyday life. If there's something I need to do, or a big task, or something that I'm scared about, or something that I don't want to do but I need to do, it's just get on with it, just crack on. But also, another really powerful phrase that we would say on the boat is, it will pass. We knew that wind wasn't going to last forever, and we also knew that even if we were rowing for 12 hours non-stop, like, we wasn't going to die. That's not putting ourselves at risk. So we just knew it would pass, but we didn't know when. So every time we would struggle, we would just say, look, it'll pass. It's going to get easier. Tomorrow we might be rewarded and the wind might be really, really strong in the opposite direction. Or just get on with it. Like, there's no point in any of us complaining about it, because as soon as one person complained, it would then lower the tone. It kind of would act as a poison. No one did complain, but if someone did, it would it would act like a toxin or a poison and slowly infiltrate through the rest of the team. So we all just we just tried to stay upbeat. And if we couldn't stay upbeat, we would just stay silent and we would just get on with it. And actually, when you come to think of it, it's, rowing for 9 hours in a headwind is horrendous. But there's far more worse things that happen in life. Like, people go through far worse things. I myself have been through things that are far worse. And I just thought, let's put this into perspective. Like, we signed up to do this. We've paid to do this. We've put ourselves here. There's no point in complaining. Just get on with it.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. It's actually, this is a choice that you've made, from months ago. It's just something that you've wanted to do. And obviously realizing it's not all going to be sunshine and roses. There's going to be these tough moments, these tough times. And exactly like you said, it's just get on with it and it will pass. But rowing across the Atlantic, I know, physical and mental challenges, but there must have been moments when you were out there which were breathtaking, astounding, life-changing, not just the finish line. But take us back to some of those moments that maybe stand out for you now, or that you reflect back on or think about now still.
Yeah, there were a few that really stick out. There was one occasion where I was asleep in the cabin and then my crewmate woke me up. Laura, the whole boat is surrounded by whales. And I was like, right, I'm totally up for this. So I just jumped out of bed. I was completely naked, jumped out on deck. And then there was just this family of whales swimming next to us. I mean, like within 5 or 10 meters of the boat, and they were bigger than the boat, just swimming next to us. Just absolutely amazing. This was one of the few occasions that we actually completely stopped rowing. The boat was always moving forward, but on this occasion we just dropped the oars and we just said, we need to enjoy this. And then so many occasions where we were just surrounded by tens of dolphins, just loads of dolphins. Put the GoPro in the water and you can hear them talking to each other. Just amazing. We saw a huge turtle. He was huge. He must have been like over 100 years old, just floating away. And then some of the scarier moments were actually some of my highlights, because they were just so exhilarating and released so much adrenaline. Like the massive wave that I experienced in the night, and the moon was quite bright and it shone off the top of this wave, and I thought, blimey, that's bigger than a house, and it's coming for you. And then we cruised up the top of this wave and we just absolutely flew down the other side like a roller coaster. And Kate and I, who was on the oars, we were just screaming in exhilaration, just having the best time. And then another one came and I just thought, this is what I've signed up for. Like, I've signed up to be scared and happy and excited. And we were just flying. Like, it was just amazing. That was just so amazing to do that.
Was it what you expected?
I don't think it was. No, I don't think it was. In several aspects, on a social level, I don't think it was what I expected. Or rephrase, I don't think it was what I hoped for. But also on the flip side, if it is what I hoped for, then maybe we wouldn't have got the result that we got, i.e. winning the race. We rode non-stop, 2 hours on, 2 hours off for 43 days straight. Like, we didn't give ourselves any time off, apart from when we saw the whales, and apart from the half an hour where we ate the peanut M&Ms. Christmas Day, New Year's Day, the boat moved the whole time. We did not stop. And I don't regret that, but I suppose in my head before I left, I just thought there would be those magical moments. But we would, even if the magical moments happened, we were absolutely exhausted, beyond exhausted, that there's not even a word for it. And I also, so we were out for 43 days, and on around day 37, the challenge broke me, and I've never had something that breaks me. And my mind gave up. Not so much my body, but my mind said, we've had enough now. Like, we don't want to do this anymore. And I tried to fight it, but me trying to fight it was tiring because I was already so tired. And I couldn't fight it. So my mind won and said, we've had enough. And I remember doing this piece to the GoPro, and I just said, like, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. It's broke me. Don't like it. Quite funny though, because the GoPro even ran out of battery and stopped filming. And I thought, oh, that was almost like a godsend. It was almost like a sign, i.e., shut up, stop talking, go to sleep, because you've got to go rowing in an hour and a half. And then 3 days later, I felt terrible for 3 days. I came out on deck and I said, sorry guys, I don't want to talk. Like, I'm done. I'm not having a very good time. And for 3 days, I just would come out, put my headphones in, not talk to anyone. And I thought, this is it now. I'm here until the end, being antisocial, being miserable, acting just all insular. And then 3 days later, I said to one of them, do you want to listen to some music? And they were like, hey, LT's back. And then I came out of it, and it just goes to prove that it will pass. But that was quite a long 72 hours. The challenge, it completely, it won. It beat me.
Oh, Laura, you're making me emotional.
Yeah.
It was when you said, we've had enough now. I don't want to do this anymore. And you got through it. I can't even imagine what you went through on those 72 hours, and also going very insular, going into yourself. Why do you think you came out of it? Do you think it was just a case of time?
Yeah, I do. I didn't think that it would pass. I think it's one of the very few situations that's ever happened to me where I thought, this is it. Like, it's not going to pass. But I'm pleased that it proved me wrong. My brain had done so much processing. My body had done so much rowing. I was trying to deal with so many situations on board the boat and within my own head, and emotionally, psychologically, everything, that my brain just said, we're done. And then I was so frustrated that I couldn't fight back and be like, yeah, stuff you. Like, I always win over you. Like, I always do what you don't want to do, and we do it. And I tried, and I just couldn't. So I just needed to listen to my book for 3 days. Fortunately, I had this wicked audiobook, and it made me laugh. It made me cry. It had me kind of in shock, kind of rowing, going, oh my goodness. And I could hear the others saying, oh, she's listening to her audiobook. And it had me experience so many different emotions, and it took me outside of where I was. And it also gave me an opportunity to express my emotions, because I didn't cry on the boat at all, despite how hard it was. The only time I did cry was when I listened to this book, and actually the release in crying made me feel better. So this particular book has really helped me get through those 3 days.
What was the book, Laura?
It was called Shantaram. It was about 48 hours long. I think it's quite famous.
Cool. I thought it was going to be something like a Jilly Cooper.
No, it was called Shantaram, and the guy in it was having a bit of a hard time, and I was thinking, well, I'm having a hard time, but not as bad as him. So he kind of softened the pain a little bit.
What was it like for you reaching the finish line and going from, completing your dream, reaching Antigua?
Yeah, I don't think there's any words that I can tell you about how that felt. So we saw Antigua about 40 miles out. we approached in the night and we could see the light coming off of the island. The others got quite excited, but for some reason I didn't get that excited. I don't know why. I can't explain why. I was I was still coming out of this 3-day misery, and then it was when the support boat, the power boat, came out to see us, and it had the Facebook Live crew, it had the photographer, the videographer, the race staff. It had it on this boat, and as it sped up to us, I stood up. I was rowing. I stood up, dropped the oars, and let out this blood-curdling scream. All my knees went funny. My arms were flapping about. And I just thought, oh my goodness, Laura, where on earth did that noise come from? I turned around and the rest of the crew were just sat there in shock. Like, oh my God, what just happened? And all the people on the boat were laughing because I was hysterical. Like, I was so excited. There was tears in my eyes. And then it took us a couple of hours to actually get into Antigua. We were greeted by people on stand-up paddleboards, on yachts, on speedboats. The super yachts that are the size of cruise ships were sounding their horns, all the staff hanging over the side, taking pictures. It was the most unbelievable feeling of my entire life. Like, I've even love, it kind of, like, it doesn't, it kind of didn't come close. It was absolutely incredible. I can't even tell you how amazing it was. So you spend 43 days slogging your guts out with 3 other people. You don't see anyone else. And suddenly you're in this gorgeous destination with all your friends and family at the finish line, just surrounded by hundreds of people, just gazing at you in awe about what you've just done. And you think, I've just rowed from Spain and I'm now in the Caribbean. Like, we've done it. And then we all look at each other and then we say, we did it. It's just amazing. Like, amazing.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, massive, massive, massive congratulations. Just for the row, for having this big dream, for going after it, for the hard work, for the effort, the perseverance, the focus, the dedication, the commitment that you put in to making this happen. What was the transition like afterwards? Because, I mean, I know and I've spoken to lots of sort of adventurers and challengers, once they complete a big challenge, you can suffer from the adventure blues. Was this something that you were aware of, or how easy was it to transition from doing, 2 hours on, 2 hours off for 43 days, for being on this tiny boat with just 3 other people, to suddenly being back on land in the Caribbean? That sounds amazing. Transitioning back to normal life after such an incredible challenge.
Yeah, I'd often thought that the adventure blues was a bit of a myth. I kind of felt as though if someone knew that they were going to get it, they would get it, and if you knew that you wasn't going to get it, you wasn't going to get it. I've never experienced adventure blues before. I can kind of get my head around it, but I'm one of them people where if you think you can, and if you can't, you can't. So I was determined not to get the adventure blues, but I was completely proven wrong. Like, after 5 days of being on land, I crashed and burned big style. So my dad witnessed it. He was out there in Antigua to welcome me in, and he witnessed it. We went from this really simple life on the boat where we didn't really have to think about anything. It was physically really, really hard, but in our head, we just had so much space. We wore 4 or 5 items of clothes. We did the odd bit of laundry and a bit of boat maintenance, but just a simple life of rowing, eating, drinking water and going to sleep, and making sure we was going in the right direction. And then suddenly you get back to land and you've got phone calls, WhatsApp, email, Facebook, Instagram. You've got to be at this place at a certain time. Hey, what do you want for dinner? Like, all this choice. Whereas on the boat, you just get given what you're given and then you just eat it. And you got a kind of shower and look nice and do your hair. And it was all things that we didn't need to do on the boat. and also lots and lots of interactions, dealing with tens, if not hundreds of people a day, which was really overwhelming. And I struggled quite a lot, actually, and it took me about 2 weeks to really find my flow. I would get tired really easily. I would sleep maybe 4 or 5 hours a night. It took me a few weeks to get back to 8 hours. But fortunately now I'm fully back in the groove, like 100% back. But the transition was very, very difficult. And apparently I wasn't alone. Everybody else was feeling exactly the same, because I would text people and say, like, how are you feeling? And then exactly the same. Attention span was really short. So to sit and do something for a couple of hours, like, I just couldn't do it. My brain wasn't used to thinking about stuff like that. It was just used to just being out on the ocean rowing, looking and dreaming.
Yeah. Tough transition to go through. You're now back in the UK. You've rowed across the Atlantic Ocean. You've accomplished this incredible goal. And I know everyone hates asking this question, but I'm always really interested. I do want to know, what are you going to be doing next? Do you have any plans? It may not necessarily be ocean rowing, but what are your plans for 2019?
I'm not sure that I'm going to do anything in 2019. I spent the past 2 years fundraising, and that's the quickest way to, like, upset your social life. I would quite like to do some mini adventures, micro adventures, hang out with my friends, get some traction with my career, spend the summer just having a nice time. But certainly I'd love to do another ocean row, despite it being hard, just so tiring. I just realised that it's somewhere that I love to be, just out in the middle of the ocean. I don't even like rowing. Can you believe that? But there's something about ocean rowing that's just so special, and so few people do it. And the hardship and the challenge, you just get such a reward from it. So I would love to do another ocean row, but I'm not sure who, with, where, or when. But 2020, that would be nice. But yeah, just searching for some little adventures in the UK for this year, and just having a nice time, and sleeping and eating and running, like, all lovely things.
And I think it's like, this sounds very similar to almost what my motto is becoming recently. It's just to be kind to myself, and actually to know, you don't have to go and do these massive, crazy challenges, because also you've put so much into this. You actually do need a bit of time to break, a break, to recover, to recharge, just to get, to have a social life again, not to be constantly pushing, and just almost just to let things go, have some fun, do these micro and mini adventures, spend some time in the UK, and just recharge and recuperate, which sounds incredible. Now, you do have an awesome blog, and you are on social media. Where's the best place for people to find more information out about you?
The best place to find me is Laura Try UK on all platforms, and lauratry.com.
Awesome. I'll be making sure that I put all of the links in the show notes that you can go and follow along with Laura. She does do great blogs. Also follow along with her on Instagram stories for the
anti-inflammatory shot. Oh my goodness, people love it. Like, it's so funny.
I love watching you do it. Like, it makes me laugh and gag, and then I'm just like, I never want to try it. But then sometimes I do.
Well, next time I see you, we're totally doing it.
Oh my God, absolutely. That would be super fun. But Laura, thank you so much for coming back on Tough Girl Podcast Extra, just to share more about the continuation of your journey. And as I've said, Laura has been interviewed on the podcast since, it would have been December 2016 when we first started speaking to you. So to see this journey that you've been on, what you've learned, the challenges you face and overcome, is absolutely inspiring. So thank you so much.
Love it. Thanks, Sarah. Love what you're doing.
a massive thank you to Laura for coming back on the Tough Girl Podcast Extra to share more about her incredible journey. Now, if you are new to the podcast, let me introduce myself, which I should have done at the start. My name is Sarah Williams. I'm the host of Tough Girl Podcast, host of Tough Girl Extra, and I also run Tough Girl Challenges, which is the website which encompasses everything that I do. So if you go and visit toughgirlchallenges.com, you can find out more information about me. You can read more information about the 200 plus women that I've interviewed. You can read the blog posts. You can see the books that I've written on climbing Kilimanjaro, running the Marathon des Sables, and chalet hosting. So a whole host of information on the website. Now, if you are completely new to the podcast, you may be wondering what the 7 Women 7 Challenges is. And I'm just going to very briefly explain it just to give you a little bit more input. So back in 2016, I got feedback from members of the Tough Girl Tribe, a closed Facebook community, about how I could improve the podcast. And the feedback was, Sarah, look, we loved the interviews. They're absolutely amazing, but I'm never going to be an Olympian. I'm never going to go and climb Mount Everest, but I still want to live an adventurous life. I just feel as though I can't relate to some of the women that I've interviewed. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is, amazing information for me to hear. And I thought, okay, well, what can I do about it? So I thought, what about if we get 7 real women, 7 members of the Tough Girl Tribe to tell me what their goals and plans are for 2017. And then let's do a vote and then select 7 women and we'll follow them in their journey and we'll do an interview sort of every 6 to 8 weeks with them. So we'll find out what their goals are and how they progress. Because I think what happens is it's very easy to see the end goal. So it's very easy for many people to listen to the podcast with Laura and say, oh, isn't it incredible what she's done? And yes, she's overcome some obstacles, but we haven't even gone into half of what she's been through, but we do in 7 Women, 7 Challenges. And I think sometimes people forget the obstacles, the challenges that people have to overcome, and they forget the hard work, the dedication, the focus, the commitment that goes into achieving a goal like this. And doing 7 Women, 7 Challenges, there's actually 6 parts to it, but we speak to 7 women from all over the world. So we start with, one of them is Georgie Aitken-Smith. She did 12 challenges in 12 months. She was 26-year-old, living in London. She loves being fit and active, but she wanted to try new things. So she ended up doing, the Windsor Duathlon, the Mallorca 312, a ski marathon in Switzerland, and a whole variety of different challenges. So we talked to Georgie more about, how she trained, what she learned from going through that process. We caught up with Ray Red, who's a completely new runner going after her first ultra. Really, really interesting because Ray ended up getting pregnant throughout the year and she's got a gorgeous little baby. So that sort of put a little bit of a dampener on going after her first ultra. She just wasn't able to change for it, and a whole life change. And so we followed along with that journey as well. Gemma Smith climbing, her goals were to climb the Kilimanjaro, the Matterhorn and the Eiger. So again, we talk a lot about the climbing, the planning, the preparation, her working out with, her personal trainer and how she fit that in with work and balancing everything else that she's got going on in her life. Rachel Wise, she wanted to take a gap year with her husband and 3 daughters and head off to travel the world. How did she do it? How did they plan the route? How did they afford to pay for it? What did they have to do? We talk a lot about that detail, and they became the slow travel family. And, they headed off and went to Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia and spent time in Indonesia and New Zealand and, Fiji, and then, back to Switzerland. And obviously we've talked about Laura Try rowing, obviously 1,800 miles around the coast of Great Britain. Jen Dykes-Horn, her goal was to cycle the iconic Le Jog, which is cycling from Land's End to John O'Groats across the UK. Jen shares very openly about she's studying for a PhD, loving adventure, but also dealing with anxiety and the different challenges that she faced in getting ready for this event. Jojo Rogers at 52 was training in an effort to be selected for the US 50-kilometer national team. Jojo is a phenomenally passionate runner. She loves to train. She's out there training twice a day. And it's amazing to hear these different women's stories as they go through this journey. So actually, one thing that only really annoys me about this is there's 6 parts, but really for 7 Women, 7 Challenges, there should be 7 parts. And one of the things which is on my to-do list is I want to go back to catch up with the 7 women who were involved in this challenge and find out what they're doing now in 2019. I've been meaning to do this for the past 6 months. I wanted to do it at the end of 2018, but life circumstances, excuses, things just got in the way and I just haven't got around to it, but it is on my list of things to do. But if you go to the website, toughgirlchallenges.com, there's a whole section on there. You can find the different segments. Some of them are quite long segments, by the way, because we sometimes end up speaking to about half an hour how to reach women. So they'll be ideal if you're going out for a really long training run, for example. You need to sit on a watt bike for a few hours. Massive thank you to everybody who has been listening. Massive thank you for your support. New episodes of the Tough Girl podcast come out on a Tuesday at 7 a.m. UK time, but make sure you subscribe because I've been producing quite a few Tough Girl extra episodes like this one, where we go back and speak with previous guests who've been on the podcast so we can continue to follow along on their journey. Because I think would be amazing in 5 years time or 10 years time to have this record of all these incredible women and being able to almost chart their progress and see how far they've come and really go into detail over the different challenges. So really, really excited with what is happening with Tough Girl Challenges. I could not be doing this without the financial support of the patrons, the individuals who believe in me and believe in my mission to increase the amount of female role models in the media. If you've been inspired by the Tough Girl podcast, if you've signed up for a race because of the Tough Girl podcast, if you listen to the Tough Girl podcast on a regular basis, please consider donating. Please consider signing up to be a patron. Signing up at $2 a month, $5 a month would just make such an incredible difference. It would be life-changing. At the moment, I am a one-woman show doing everything by myself at home on the Wirral from my bed, making it happen. The Tough Girl podcast is listened to in 174 countries around the world, over 750,000 downloads. It won a national award last year. And I'm so, so proud of all of the women who come on the Tough Girl podcast, all of my listeners and all the members of the Tough Girl tribe who are out there absolutely smashing it. So have an awesome day wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all. Just get on with it. Get it done. And I will be back with you next Tuesday for another awesome episode of the Tough Girl podcast. Take care. Lots of love. Bye.